With distance and hybrid learning taking over school districts this fall, working parents have to make some tough financial decisions. Do you stay at home, reduce your hours, or completely adjust your schedule? Well, tonight I spoke with financial professional Mike Kojonen about the ABCs for parents. Okay, Mike, so how does distance and hybrid learning maybe impact a family's finances?
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't think it's going to impact families much at all, but not everybody has the ability to work from home. There's a lot of out in the field, hands-on jobs out there. And with that, there's a lot of juggling with the schedules. And is one spouse going to work, from home? And can they work from home? You got to check with your employer, or you're going to go part-time. And so there's expenses with maybe income from work and changing that, and childcare expenses, and maybe you have to alternate who's going to get the medical expenses. And there's a lot of things to consider. That's why we have these ABCs to help guide people through these tough decisions right now.
And this first letter for the ABCs is awareness. What do we mean by being aware for parents and their finances with hybrid learning?
Yeah, first of all, just get prepared. That's where you double check with your employer. What are your options? Can you work from home if you're in that type of position? Can you switch shifts? Maybe your morning shift, can you go to afternoons or evenings, or to maybe alternate with your spouse so one can stay home and one can't? And so maybe you can go part-time, or maybe you just make that decision that's not going to work and one of you just decides to stay home. But with that, you have to check with, childcare providers and see, they were full-time, now they're going to go part-time. Is that a possibility with that childcare provider? You might have to find a different childcare provider. Also, maybe look into that Families First Coronavirus Response Act, long one there, but you could have the possibility to be able to stay home for up to 12 weeks and get that paid, or at least partially paid to stay home to raise your children with as long as you work with an employer of certain size. So there's a lot of things to consider with that, which leads to the next one is, after you make that kind of decision, look at your budget. And we already talked about budgets all the time, but get your income, get your expenses. But then after you talk to your employers and child care providers and everything else you have to adjust, do that alternate budget of what that's going to look like. And hopefully you're still in the black. And what you decide, whether you're going to stay home or part-time, whatever that's going to happen. And hopefully you're still positive income than expenses. But we recommend running that early. Run that before it happens, before the change happens, to make sure you can maintain that budget.
Do you find people are spending a little bit more or less if the parents are at home and the kids are at home? Just sticking with the budget aspect, maybe we're in the kitchen a little bit more, we're eating in a little bit more. Is that something that could be grouped into focusing on the budget?
Yeah, what I found from a lot of my clients are they've been spending a lot less. My clients usually in retirement, I'm adjusting them to say, well, you're not going to cut back as far as you think. You're going to be eating out more and doing things more. But because of what's happening in the lockdowns, we're finding, they said, geez, we haven't eaten out for a long time. And they've gone maybe to take some takeout orders, but it's really limited their budget. And I think for a lot of people, it's actually helped save some money. As long as you don't have any home shopping network addiction or Amazon addiction.
So once we've started to work through our budget, I know another difficult part, especially in this hybrid aspect, the distance part of being away from the school is communication with the staff and everything. So how important is that to this understanding of how parents should navigate hybrid learning with their finances?
Yeah, communication is huge, and it's a whole family thing. And I bring up the whole family because a recent study shows 2/3 of teenagers are showing signs of concern and stress because they know the financial strain that's going on in the household because of coronavirus. So you need to talk to the teenagers and assure them they're going to be okay. The young adults that, hey, we're going to be okay. We're going to get through all this. But also communicate with each other. I mean, it shouldn't be a novel idea, right? But we already have, relationships are hard enough as it is. And then you add financial strain, and you add what's happening here in 2020 with coronavirus and changing of work schedules and everything as well. You can't leave people out in the darkness here. You have to share what's going on. And I know a lot of households, and I experienced this in my own practice. Usually there's a lot of times there's just one person in the household that handles all the finances. And don't even question, John over here, because he's going to handle everything. You have to communicate, because when there's some major changes, that's when things hit the fan. I hate to say that term, and we have a high level of divorce out there. And it's not about, finances and money is not the key of divorce. It's how you communicate through the lack of finances. I think there'd be a lot less divorces out there if people just communicated more.
Absolutely. Anything else in particular that families need to be contemplating when it comes to their finances as we kind of head into the fall season here?
Yeah, don't forget to pay yourself first. I always talk about if you have that ability, if you didn't lose your job, you still have income coming in, don't quit putting money aside for your future. Keep contributing, because you don't want to look back and find, oh, I got to work another couple of years. 2020 is a tough enough year. We like to forget already. You don't want to compound the problem and look back, says because what I didn't do, I had the ability to, it's going to affect how long I have to work now.
You'll find more money advice from Mike on WCCO.com.